Party Saber.
All right, so we're here to talk about this Saberforge Scrapflex that was provided by my client and required a little bit of upgrading and engineering to get it fully operational. So let's hop down to the table. We'll talk about what went on with that. This is one of two that came from the client secondhand, so he's not sure, and we're both not sure who actually prepared these Scrapflexes. This being the Saberforge, we can tell from the grip. But yeah, so let's talk about what I did to get this sort of in a state that I thought would make this something special, and then also operational so that we can get OS 7.10, and what you just watched was party mode from Jedi Survivor. So we'll hop down, we'll go through all that, and then we'll come back out. I'll show a few more things with the blade in, but yeah, let's move forward. All right, so we're here to talk about this Saberforge Scrapflex that was provided as one of two commissions from my client. This came to me empty and had a number of things that needed to be fleshed out for me to actually install it, one of which is this switch solution that you're watching animate right now. So there were a couple pieces just kind of left unfigured out. This did come with an original bubble strip clamp card and like a copper colored poster board backing because the clamp itself couldn't hold it in. And so there wasn't a switch solution. I could have drilled some holes and just did some, soft switches from Calaminian Customs, but I had seen somebody, and I want to say Tim at Tierfon did this on a Scrapflex that he was commissioned, where he illuminated the back of the bubble strip with a 2020 Neo strip and used tactile. So that's what I did. In order to do that, I had to take the clamp section off, drill a few holes, tap something to retain my neopixel hold and switch holder and rotary PCB holder, and then put the clamp section back on, feed my wires, and do all that, which was quite a bit of a challenge. But a couple other things that weren't provided was there was just a hole here that was intended for something. I don't know if whoever originally put this together. And again, I do say this is Saberforge because this grip comes from Saberforge. Everything else I'm not quite sure of. I'm calling it Saberforge Scrapflex because we do have this Grapflex style top, but it's all one piece that was weathered previous to the client owning it. There was a blank hole here, which I got a glass eye from the custom saber shop, it's not an open, so that you're not going to get any shine through. But I also had to provide these pins. Whoever put these together just had some black set screws that weren't the actual thread for these holes. And so I wanted this to be a little bit more Grapflex inspired, so I bought these as well from the Custom Saber shop. But the blade retention thumb screw did come with the Saber. So this knurled thumb screw here is your blade retention, and there's plenty of length here to get a good bite. There was a hole here that was tapped, which I assume was for a neopixel connector, but I didn't like the fact that it was basically a ½ inch below the lower section of this Grapflex top. I wanted a good inch of retention, so I just filled that in with an antique thumb screw. I did put an antique thumb screw for this other hole that was down here, but in talking with my client and how he hangs these on the wall with CoverTech, I told him I did have a CoverTech, so I removed the anodization off that and weathered it to match the grip, and then I just took another antique thumb screw and then slotted it so I could actually screw it in to get that to stay. And so we have that now. Yeah, so that's all the prep work, but the weathering, which looks fantastic, and the wood veneer, which is also really cool, was provided. I just had to resin print my own bubble strip clamp card so that I could get a flat surface to actuate the
My name is Dagon Gera.
aux strip and the power strip, right? So the neopixel strip that's under here will do things differently depending on the preset and the on and off state. I did provide a illuminated PCB from Shadowfoil, which is split into subblades. So there's an inner and outer ring, which does different things in on and off state. Which reacts. So if you had a blade plug in there, you can get some effects. Now, there is also, that was provided, a hidden crystal chamber in here. So in order to get to that, we want to grip the Grapflex up top, making sure we put a lot of pressure up here. We do not want to put our thumb against the clamp card because we have wires running through the hole that I've created into the switch holder. And this thing could, even though the clamp itself is pretty secure, you could accidentally rotate and clip those wires. So we want to grip the upper top and then unscrew here from the grip, and it just disconnects right here. And now we have our crystal chamber, which was provided, from Saberforge. I did have to double up on my rotary PCB connectors. So we do have a removable chassis down here and a secondary set of rotary PCBs. I'll show that in a second. So yeah, I just 3D printed this top. I provided some copper braided wire wrap so we can hide the wires that go through these 3 channels here on the sides. And we just have a single neopixel illuminating it. I just put a little brass heat sink thing up there at the top just for accent. And so, yeah, so we can twist on. See that lighten up. Responds to all that stuff. So yeah, we have gesture controls with the chassis. So again, we'll put this back on. We're going to grip the emitter section, avoiding rotation of the clamp section so we don't clip the wires. And then once we get good connection, you'll see that. And then we can just get to the chassis by undoing the pommel. Now there is a 3D printed spacer on the pommel. So to the client, if you kind of rip it off too soon, you might push that up against the wall and that the super glue could come undone. That shouldn't be too big of an issue, so just be careful when you take it out. But if it does come off, just put a tiny dab of super glue, put the spacer back in, and then screw it in with the chassis in, and then just let the glue cure. If you do lose it, let me know, and I'll send you something you can 3D print. So here's our resin greeblie chassis, heavily inspired by Tim at Tierfon Orbital. So Tim, thanks again for I think this was you, inspiration on the switch section, and then obviously for, coming up with the concept of now I went overboard a little bit on this with the amount of greeblies, but, we've got a a row of animated pixels underneath this set of greeblies. We've got two kind of status indicator 2020 neopixels here. We have our OLED going, and then we have a 15 count of 2020 strips there showing up. Now I did put an aux button on the chassis itself because we have this OLED.
Jedi Knight Dargangera.
So that we can actually see what's going on with the status. This does sport a Proffie v3.9 with OS 7.10. We have our second set of rotary connectors here from Shtok. And then we have a fully enclosed 28mm bass speaker from KR. I did use a flex seal to do that. So if we want to go backwards.
My name is Master Seer Junda. Party Saber.
So this first preset is Survivor Party Mode, and this I will demonstrate this with the blade in here in a moment, but this does use the FET263 alt or multi-phase capability, so accent swings can change the color and font of the blade. So it's really cool. It's sporting the latest tech. There we've got the Luke cave scene animation there on those 2 pixels. And then, so sometimes the covered strip here will be off in the off state, but will be on in the on state. I just mixed it up with the different presets. So you can see like in this off state, there's something happening. So again, you're seeing twist on and twist off for gesture control. You got different animations on the OLED. So yeah, so we'll put the chassis back in. The config is on the SD card for the client. The client provided all of the Survivor fonts, but the party mode's up top. And then after the Survivor fonts, we have a mix of fonts previously provided by the client as well. Those do not use the new multi-phase function. So to the client, those will be similar to the previous install that we talked about. So you can see we got different on and off states going on here in the emitter. And then if we want to go backwards once again.
Party Saber.
To party mode. What I did was in the off state, this is the main blade color. But in the on state, this will just rotate through the rainbow because obviously with the Party Saber, we can get most of the colors. This takes a 1-inch diameter neopixel blade. Yeah, so your blade retention's right here. The thumb screw, you just set that on the pins, tighten the thumb screw down. And so we can, again, twist on or twist off, or power is up top. Okay. Aux is down below. Now, to do party mode, there's a number of special features. Special feature 1 and 2 uses the power switch. Special feature 3 and 4 uses the aux switch. So all that really means is it's going to go through the phases depending on which button special ability you use. Hold power and rotate the saber to the right. You will move to the next phase. Hold power and rotate left and let go, and you'll go backward in phases. Hold aux, rotate right, and you'll go to a random color. And again, all 3 of those first special features will just stay on whatever that phase is. And then special feature 4 is hold aux, rotate left when the saber's on. And then now heavy swings will change colors. So let's demonstrate that real quick. All right, so now we're in phase 1. We have this blue color. So we can swing it around and then off for blaster blocks and then all the regular mode stuff. But if we hold power and rotate to the right, now we're to the next phase, which is cyan. And now we're green. So again, it's a hold power for like a second while you're rotating and then let go. Otherwise, you'll either, if it's too short, you'll turn it off. Or if you rotate and forward and back, it's essentially the gesture off command. So you don't want to do that, right? So we hold power, rotate right, move forward. Now we're in indigo. Hold power, rotate left. We're back to green. hold power, rotate left, back to cyan. So, we're just moving forward and backwards. But we hold aux and turn right. We go to a random color, yellow. Aux, turn right. Oops, did that too long. Now we're back to green. Yellow. Green. Back to blue. Green. So this is just random. Now we're on white. But if we hold aux and rotate left, nothing will happen. Okay, but now we're in special feature 4, which means heavy accent swings will change the color. Now we're yellow, indigo, but you can rotate a little bit, like you would with smooth swing. But when we do an accent swing, that's when we rotate. And if you're hearing, it's also changing the hum associated with that color. All right, so that's party mode. Fernando at FET263 has all of the information on that. I will provide a brief printout that shows all that. So that is this saber. We'll go over a few more things with the blade in so we can demonstrate, but I wanted to show that up close with the demo blade so we can understand what's happening with the switch. Again, it's a little bit of a learning curve because there's a bunch of other features associated with holding power for a second, like force commands or turning the track on and off. So that being said, this is similar to previous installs for the client, so those other features will remain the same. Briefly, I didn't mention that I also provided these additional clamp cards for the client, so we can take that out. I recommend doing it when the saber's not connected, but I can disconnect it here for a second by unscrewing partially the grip. But the animated strip that's right here with the 2 buttons can now also be illuminated with these PCBs, which I also custom etch. So if we put the saber back on, now we can see that animating as well. So just wanted to show that real quick, that I'm also providing these custom PCBs that I made. Briefly forgot to mention one thing. The last preset is a battery level indicator.
Battery level.
So that will show up here on the bubble strip from green to red if the chassis is in. And then a number of the other accent PCBs on the chassis itself, if it's outside of the saber, will also indicate battery level. Or I'm sorry, just this main strip. So this main strip will go from green to red, and then we'll get our battery level indication that way.
Party saber.
And that's that. So we can turn the kill switch off and put it back in the hilt for storage. All right, let's pop a regular blade in, and then we'll go over a few more things. Alrighty, so we talked about party mode. We talked about some features that went into the chassis design and things like that with the OLED. I did mention, we can show off the crystal chamber here, which I'll do real quick with the blade out. This does support a 32-inch, 1-inch diameter neopixel blade in the emitter. I'm using a 7/8 KR pixel stick at 32 with an adapter, just so that I can show off this with the best of my abilities. The KR pixel stick kind of has a better color grade. Anyway, so in the intro, you watched me show off a couple special features, and then I demonstrated it down below with the button commands. But party mode is up top. It is the first preset in all of these presets. The first grouping of presets is all Jedi Survivor fonts that came in the bundle, but party mode is only on the first one. So it's also called multi-phase special abilities. So the multi-phase feature is only built into the first one. so that you can cycle through, the blue, cyan, indigo, yada, yada, yada colors. There's 8 or 9, and those are with holding power or aux and rotating either left or right. The swing function is only on the holding aux and rotating left. It won't show up right away. It only will engage on and off. And then your accent swings, which again, you saw me up front kind of swinging it around, and then it only changed when I kind of put a little bit of G-force into it. So let's turn it back on. Okay, so where I left off was on this yellow color, and it remembered that. Now I may or may not have mentioned down below, if we change presets, so now we're on another Survivor font, but it doesn't have that multi-phase feature. But if we go back to party mode, point the hilt to go backwards.
Party Saber.
Okay, so here, Party Saber. We're going to start in the first phase and the first font, or the main font. So again, in order for that to work, again, this is all something that Fernando at FET263 discusses. The directory structure on your SD card has to align with the programming. So if you wanted to duplicate party mode to future fonts that you have, you would have to organize it into the folders with the exact number and naming conventions of the sound files themselves. So that being said, I would just use it for the Jedi Survivor fonts, which it's already built in to do. But again, we started over. We're back at the top with blue. And so if we want to move forward, special feature 1 is power. Hold power. Rotate the saber right. Okay, now we're in cyan. It's probably not going to look that different on screen, but now we're still in cyan. We can turn the blade off, but if we switch presets, we're going to start back into blue. But turn the blade back on, we're in cyan. Again, I've got twist on and twist off, and then thrust on enabled. Those will get you into gesture mode, battle mode. So lockups will happen automatically. You don't need a button press. Again, I mentioned a lot of these things will animate on that bubble card with the neopixel strips underneath. And so to go special feature 2, hold power, turn left. Now we're back to blue. And then again, it's gonna stay on blue. Special feature 3, hold aux, turn right. And now we're in a random color, which happens to be green. Again, it's gonna stay this color until you do another multi-phase command, special features 1 through 3. Or if we go into party mode, hold aux, turn left, nothing happened, but now strong accent swings, so we're on this whitish color, silver. Now we're on orange. You can see I'm swinging it kind of pretty good, but it's a strong accent swing that really changes the color. Okay, so I've done a number of these videos for this client, but briefly, I just mentioned battle mode. Battle mode means you don't have to press a button to engage lockups. Lockups are not just in the middle of the blade. Lockups are also melt if we're holding our hilt sideways, drag if we're pointing down. So we've got a lot of things around the power button and holding for a second. But the force command is just hold it for a second and let go, and you'll see it change animations. And you'll hear a sound effect. Now, with all of the Survivor fonts, there's also quotes. So if we want to switch from force to quote, point the hilt down, hold aux first, or hold power for a second.
This is what you've done for her.
There we go. Sorry, I was holding the button and accidentally slightly rotating, and you may have saw the color change. Okay, so now we're in quote player mode, but it's random. So
Okay, this is us. This must be the outpost.
So
I guess we finally get to see Grace's cantina.
hold power for a second,
Oh, really hot!
and we're gonna do quotes. We want to switch back to force sounds. Point the hilt down. Don't rotate. Just hold it for a second. There we go. Now, that button command, holding power again for a second. If we're pointed straight up, we're going to start the track that I have designated for the preset. second to turn it off. We'll do that again. Hold it up. Hold it for a second to turn it off. All right. So a lot of button commands that are all about nuance in how you activate rotation or the split second between letting go just before a second or just after a second could mean the difference between a force sound or a rotation or that kind of thing. So again, that's quote player, force player, point the hilt down to switch, point it straight up for track player. But again, it's only going to play the designated track. In the off state, track player mode will be any other orientation of the hilt, so long as it's not upright. And now it will play any track that's in the track folder, starting alphabetically. So it's going to start immediately playing a sound, but if I rotate the hilt, we'll go to the next one. Or if I rotate right, we'll go forward. Rotate left, we'll go backwards. And then if I want to keep playing with moving the saber around, hit power. You hear that little button. Now it's not going to change on me. So that being said, that's track player mode. Only happens in the off state and only happens when you're not pointing straight up. If we point straight up, it's the same as if the blade was on. We're going to play the designated track. So that being said, onto the other characters. So, real quick caveat to the owner, the OS 7 styles are employed for all of the Jedi Survivor fonts, and then everything that's after that were fonts you've provided in the past, use blade styles for installs I've done for you in the past. So they don't necessarily rely on OS 7 and edit mode. If you want to edit any of the colors on the fly, for the Jedi Survivor, I highly recommend doing that with edit mode, and you can learn how to do that on the printout, but anything else on the other ones should behave similarly to hilts that I've provided you in the past. A number of other commands I'm not going to go over will be on that printout. Some things may have changed in OS 7 from OS 6, so do take a look at that or the website for FET263 as you go through. So let's check out a few more fonts.
My name is Dagan Gera.
We have two from this character. The first one is the dark side version. Don't know if I'm spoiling anything. Apparently this guy, you meet him in flashbacks, and he's in the High Republic, which is the second font.
Jedi Knight Dagan Gera.
And then when you encounter him later, he's turned to the dark side, I think. So what I've done is all the accents are the same for both characters, but the High Republic is this gold, and then I think it's a darker orangish red for that dark side. But just different colors on the accents. Again, we can pull this out, check the crystal out,
Ninth Sister.
This one I want to show off because this sound font with the fully enclosed speaker in this grip, this is beefy as hell, and I love it. I don't know how it's going to show up on camera audio, but man, love it.
I'll skin you and serve you up to Lord Vader. You can run, Kestis, but I'll find you eventually.
All right.
Lord Vader.
Liquid static.
So these are the fonts provided previous installs. So the blade styles will be similar. Accent styles will be similar on the chassis. All right, and then I mentioned down below, but the last preset is a battery level indicator. And if you have the blade in, you'll get a bubble. And then the closer towards the hilt it is, the more charged, or the less charged it is, the closer towards the tip, the more charged, and then on the accents on the bubble strip, and then also on the strip on the chassis, we'll go from green to red, green obviously being good, red meaning charge. But as with before, the speaker may crackle before you ever get into red, and then that just means charge your battery. So,
Battery level.
and here we go. So again,
Battery level 63%.
so that was holding aux and tapping power, but we get a little bit of a representation here. So that is the Saber.
Party Saber.
Hope you enjoy it.